This is The Artificial Man by Clare Winger Harris, published in the 1929 issue of Science Wonder Quarterly magazine, narrated by ElevenLabs digital audio voice Anna Rita II. A transformation. At length came a day when, in the company of both of these faithful friends, George Gregory announced his intention of using an artificial limb instead of a crutch. His sweetheart voiced immediate remonstrance. "No, George, I'd rather see you walking with the visible aid of a crutch than to think of your using an artificial leg. Somehow it seems like hypocrisy, a kind of appearing to be what you aren't. I know my idea is poorly expressed, but that's the way I feel about it." A peculiar light came into Gregory's eyes, a light that neither friend had ever seen there before. He straightened visibly, almost without the aid of his crutch. "I'll walk yet as well as anyone, and maybe it will give me back my mental confidence. My mind shall triumph over my body as well as it ever did." The artificial leg was duly applied to the hip stump, and it really was amazing to observe the rapidity with which Gregory mastered the art of using it proficiently. Anyone unacquainted with his deformity would never have realized that he did not possess two normal legs. And then came the automobile accident a week before the time set for the Nelson Gregory nuptials. How George Gregory's car was struck by an oncoming truck, reduced to a junk heap, and George thrown into a ditch, so that one arm was finally caused to be amputated, never will be known, for George had always been a careful driver. Even with his artificial leg, he declared he had no difficulty in putting on the brake. The fall had, as was proved later, caused also internal injuries, so that some of the bodily organs did not function properly. The months that followed were to all who were closely concerned with the accident like a descent into Hades. Dr. Bell, serving as an intern in the Good Samaritan Hospital, devoted himself untiringly to the tragic case of George Gregory. A world-famous specialist was summoned in consultation concerning the internal injuries sustained by Gregory. Very little hope was held out for the life of the unfortunate man, although there was one chance: an artificial kidney. The vigorous constitution of the invalid came to his rescue. He not only survived the operation, but seemed to be in the best of health afterward. And it is not to be wondered that Rosalind began to doubt whether her love for George Gregory could remain the same as before. Thrown constantly as she was in the company of Dr. David Bell, observing his devoted care and interest in George, she began to compare, or rather to contrast, the two men. George's rapid deterioration was no longer a possible flight of the imagination. It was an actuality. It was no longer possible to overlook the meaning behind his words. "God expresses himself through the physical world," he said, when the three were together at George's apartment on Kenneth Drive. "He is a spirit, but he makes himself manifest in the perfection of a physical world. As much of physical perfection as I have lost, that much of God or goodness has left me, and there are no two ways about it." Remonstrance was useless, so convinced was the invalid that his theories were correct. Also in his mind there grew steadily an ever-increasing dislike for the friend of his college days, the doctor. He could no longer be blind to the fact that it was a struggle for Rosalind to be loyal to him. He was also aware of the growing affection that existed between David and Rosalind. From a dislike, his feelings gradually changed to those of implacable hatred for his former chum.